My next guest takes on Ben Brewer at Shamrock FC 316 on March 15th. It is Jordan Dowdy joining me here on the program for the very first time. Jordan, how are you?
I'm doing well, I mean, everything's lining up. I'm feeling good. I'm excited to finally be on your show, too.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man. You mentioned this is the first time we're chatting, so I got to know the backstory. How did you get into MMA?
So when I was in college, I dated a girl that was from Hillsborough, Illinois. Their family was good friends with the Hughes family, so they would even babysit his kids. And back when Matt was fighting Hoist Gracie and all that, I'd see him every now and then. We weren't good buddies or hung out or anything, but that was my first experience in it. And I go, I'm going to do that someday. You know, I got to. And then after college, and when you get your first big boy job and you realize, man, this world just isn't what they said it was going to be. I needed some type
not
of
as
outlet.
advertised. Yeah, exactly.
No, and I had a relationship that had ended, and it didn't end very well. My brother had found a gym locally that he was training at, and one day I was just like, man, I'm going with you. I can't sit at home. Like, I got too much going on. And I was there ever since. That was in October 2010. So.
Good for you, man. It's always nice seeing people chase their dreams. If I had to take a guess as far as what's paying the bills for you right now, because I know fighting probably isn't doing that full time. Are you teaching? What are you doing to pay those bills, keep the lights on?
So I'm a manager at a place called Sub-Zero Wellness. Actually, I have the shirt on here.
There you go. See, fighters take note of this. I don't know. I do so many video interviews, and fighters always seem to forget to wear sponsors or anything like that. Take advantage of the camera time. Just want a little
That's why
PSA
I had
there.
it turned the other way originally, so it would show my shirt a little bit more. But it's a small business owned by one of my good friends. Her name's Megan, and I had an injury back at the time, and I ran across this cryotherapy business that also did stretch work and massage. And when I was a kid, I had a blown out disc in my back, so they thought I wasn't ever going to do anything athletic again. And I proved them wrong. You know, I got past all that. When I was still in AMI, I had an injury, felt the same. So I located this cryotherapy place and made friends with her, and it was just a muscle imbalance pulling on a piriformis. So, because I was sitting there like, I'm not even going to reach my goal of being a pro before my back gives out. Now I'm good to go. Back is no issue, and I work there. It's great. It's because it's very flexible with my schedule, because you have to have a job at the same time while doing this. Like, that's why I really don't hate any of my opponents at this level. We're all just trying to go to work and do what we do for fun.
Let's talk about your opponent, Ben Brewer. How do you feel like you match up against him here?
I feel like I match up well against anybody, to be honest with you, because I'm very well-rounded. I can put someone out with a left hand or a right hand, and have done so before. And my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu are good. The little bit I know about Ben is he looks like a game veteran. He hasn't fought in a couple of years, so when that happens, usually someone got disillusioned with the sport and sat out, had a job change, had a kid, and I'm not going to assume that that's what he's been doing. I'm not going to assume he's been sitting around for 2 years. You know, I'm going to assume he's been training like I do, because he's just the opponent. I mean, I'm the biggest opponent, and things happen. So I try and get like a stat player, like in a video game, when you create a player, you have a stat bar. I try to get all my stats high enough, because you know, something could happen in training to him and maybe another guy shows up. So to focus too much on an opponent and not yourself, I think is kind of a weakness. You can see trends they do, but if you try and watch tape on somebody who hasn't fought in 2 years and that's what you're going to rely on, I think that's stupid. But I have nothing but respect for the guy. I'll say that.
Okay. And you mentioned training. Where are you training right now, and who are some of your main training partners?
So I have to cross-train all over to kind of piece some good semblance of a pro level camp, because as you look around, like I've been in this 8 years, as I start to look around, people that I had looked up to are out of the game, or they're now my peers. So I have to go places where I can get pushed. So I have most of my jiu-jitsu training and strength conditioning at the Hit Squad. Nick Sanders is my jiu-jitsu coach. She's completely changed my game in the last year. And then I train out at a gym called Wolves Den, and my buddy Andrew Evers owns that. He's a black belt and does a lot of good MMA training, a lot of good drilling out there. So I want to go places where people drill, not try and spar like a bunch of goons. Lately, I've recently added going to Kyle Watson's, and we're doing some MMA class out there. I just kind of have to go all over wherever the work is. And there's been times I've made trips out to Glory MMA in Kansas City. I would do it more often if it wasn't a 4-hour drive, but those were days like me getting up at 5 a.m., driving out there just in time for sparring to drive home. And those are long treks. And I would love to do it more often, but it's just kind of hard to do in balanced adult life.
No, I hear you. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. It's funny you mentioned Glory. I'm actually talking. My next interview after you is Grant Dawson. I'm sure you know who he is over at Glory MMA. He's a featherweight there, so it's kind of small world there. How's the weight cut going ahead of this fight?
So this one is going to be at 80. So I'm in good shape here. So I walk at 200 pounds, about 8% body fat. So when I cut to 70, I'm right at the limit. So I'm really contemplating just moving up to 85. When the guys at Shamrock contacted me about a fight, regionally, I'm not excited to make 170 unless I have early weigh-ins, call me a diva or whatever. But, those last 13 to 15 pounds are water weight. And when I'm sitting here dehydrated and everybody else is just hanging around, and I'm like, come on, I turn in my paperwork, let me get on the scale. So I'm looking regionally or maybe even more just to go to 85 because the weight cut takes all the fun out of this game. And personally, I'd like to see something like a 20-pound cap on your walking weight, and whether you have to go to a physician to prove it or not, I don't care. Or I was really rooting for Conor to win that fight against Khabib because then he could have campaigned for 65, and then the 70 shifts to 75, and then everything goes in line there. And so this one's at 80. My future home will probably be at 85. And as I'm getting older, it's just not as fun to cut. There's definitely a tax on it. I've perfected the cut. I can do it, but when you're working a full-time job and I'm having to train all over like this, and then
it doesn't make fighting fun, like you said. It takes the fun out of it. So.
It takes all the fun out of it. So I'd almost would like, but it's not going to happen that you're like, hey, you're a welterweight, I fought at welterweight. Let's just go up and not cut all that stupid weight, and let's come in a little bit healthier. But that's probably not where the game's going to go. So I'm just going to have to acquiesce to what I want to do.
How do you see this fight playing out on March 15th?
So when there's 2 years off, you don't know what kind of nerve someone has. I'm pretty calm about it. I'm just going to have fun. He's going to come in hard. He's going to come in prepared. I don't expect anything less than that. To do so would be stupid. Like I said earlier, I think he's going to come out aggressive, whether it's nerves that make him aggressive or just his style. Then as he does that, there's moments in there to find the mistakes and the windows for imposing my will. I see it going a couple different ways there. I don't know how much strategy I want to get into, but I see it going my way, one way or another. Stand up wise, I can clip him. I can put him down and wear him out. I mean, it's mixed martial arts, an avenue for any which way it can go. And like I said, as long as my stat bars are high, I like my odds.
Before I let you go, we got to talk some retro gaming. I know that's one thing you and I have in common. I just want to know top 5 off the top of your head. What are some of your favorite games to play, in terms of the retro classic gaming?
So I don't get too much time for games. So a lot of it's a nostalgia factor for me, which is why I love the movie Ready Player One. I don't know if you saw that movie.
I haven't. I hear great things. That's the one. It's on my list. Yeah.
You got to watch that. But I still remember lining up at the Walmart downtown when when Super Mario 64 was coming out. The original Resident Evil, Ocarina of Time, that has to be on there. Virtua Fighter. I mean, all those games. And as I get older, I look back at those times with probably a little bit more nostalgia because the games probably weren't that great. Like Cool Borders 2 probably wasn't that great of a game, but at the time it was awesome. I had a little bit more downtime here over Christmas, and I finally gave in and got a PlayStation 4. And I got God of War, and I was like, holy shit, I'm like a whole generation of gaming behind, but I finally had time to play it, and I got on the Spider-Man. But there's a big nostalgia factor when it comes to that for me because I think a lot of times, no matter what anybody wants to say, everybody kind of wants to be a kid again or some form of escapism. No matter what you watch, no matter what you do, we're all chasing a way to check out. Whenever we can turn our brain off and check out, that's a fun time. Probably whenever the N64 Classic comes out, I'll probably pick that up because they haven't announced it, but I think that would be a fun one to have.
It's a great system, and this is a great fight. It's coming up here March 15th. It is Shamrock FC 316. You can watch it live on FloCombat. Jordan, it was great talking to you, man. Just remind people where they can find you on social media, and if you have any sponsors or shout-outs, the floor is yours.
I am found on social media at Jordan Dowdy, mixed martial artist. That's a Facebook public page. I try to keep my friends and my public one different. Instagram, jordan.dowdy. My Twitter is @JordanDowdy, and some of my biggest supporters and sponsors are Sub-Zero. My boss is great. She treats me well. Sub-Zero Wellness in St. Louis. We have a location in Chesterfield and also off of toward the Hill in St. Louis. And then a company called Face and Junk, a guy named Tom. He does a lot of natural made soaps and beard oils, and see on my complexion, I'm 32 years old. I don't look like it because of his face tonic stuff at faceandjunk.com. They're some of my biggest sponsors. Share Chiropractic and Clean Cooks. They're part of the same thing. They deal with my weight cut and nutrition and my vitamins and my blood work and stuff like that. Those guys, they really elevate what I do. And it takes a village to do this. I mean, we walk in there alone, but there is no way in hell you can do this yourself.